Time had passed, more time than we can easily hold in our minds. Generations had come and gone since the garden closed behind Adam and Eve, since Cain had walked east into the land of wandering, since Abel's blood had cried out from the ground. The world had kept moving, the way the world always does, filling itself with people, with noise, with life, and with something else. The Bible does not describe it slowly or gently. It states it plainly, and the plainness of it is what makes it land so heavily. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Every intention, only evil continually. Not some people some of the time. Not a general tendency towards selfishness that occasionally flared into something worse. The earth had filled with violence. The text says so directly. God looked at the earth, and it was corrupt, and all flesh had corrupted their way upon it. And then the Bible says something that stops you in your tracks. Something that does not sound like what you might expect from the God who spoke light into existence and called it good. Something that sounds, in the most unexpected way, deeply human. And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart. Grieved him to his heart. The God who had leaned over the dust and breathed life into it, who had planted the garden and walked through it in the cool of the day, now looked at what that life had become and grieved. The word the original language uses here is one of the heaviest words available. Not disappointment from a distance, grief from the inside. The kind of pain that comes from caring deeply about something that has gone terribly wrong. This is where the story of Noah begins. Not with a boat, not with animals, but with grief. One man. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. One word in the middle of all that darkness. But. In a world where every intention of every heart was only evil continually, there was one man who found favor. The Bible tells us three things about him. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation, and he walked with God. Walked with God. The same phrase used earlier for Enoch, who lived before Noah, and of whom the Bible says simply that he walked with God, and then was not, for God took him. To walk with God in a generation that had turned entirely away from him was not a small thing. It was the thing that set Noah apart. Not wealth, not power, not influence. Just this. He walked with God while everyone around him walked away. Noah had 3 sons. Their names were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And one day, in whatever ordinary moment it happened, during whatever ordinary task Noah was doing, God spoke to him. The instruction. I have determined to make an end of all flesh, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth. And then the instruction that followed those words was unlike anything any human being had ever been asked to do before. God told Noah to build an ark. Not a boat in the way we might casually picture one. The dimensions God gave were staggering. 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, 30 cubits high. Depending on the length of the cubit used, this is a vessel somewhere around 130 to 150 meters in length, with 3 decks, rooms throughout, a door in the side, a window, covered inside and out with pitch to make it watertight. God told Noah exactly what was coming. He would bring a flood of waters over the earth to destroy all flesh in which was the breath of life. Everything on the earth would die. But with Noah, God said, "I will establish my covenant." That word, covenant, appears here for the first time in the Bible, a formal, binding agreement between God and a human being. You will go into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, your sons' wives, and you will bring 2 of every living thing, male and female, to keep them alive. Every kind of bird, every kind of animal, every kind of creeping thing, and bring food for all of them. The scale of what was being asked is almost impossible to take in. Noah was being told to build a structure of enormous size, gather representatives of every living creature, load enough food for all of them, and prepare for a flood that would cover the entire earth, something that had never happened before and that no one alive had ever seen or imagined. And Noah did this. The Bible says it simply, Noah did all that God commanded him. Not a word of protest, not a question about the timeline, not a request for clarification on the logistics. He did all that God commanded him. The loading. Noah was 600 years old when the flood came. 7 days before the waters began, God spoke to him again. "Come into the ark," he said, "you and all your household. Take with you 7 pairs of all clean animals, the male and his mate, and a pair of the animals that are not clean, the male and his mate, and 7 pairs of the birds of the heavens. For in 7 days I will send rain on the earth, 40 days and 40 nights. And Noah did all that the Lord commanded. Picture the scene in those 7 days. The loading of the ark, animals coming 2 by 2 in a procession that would have been unlike anything the eye had ever witnessed before or since, great and small, swift and slow, predator and prey, all of them entering the ark and taking their place. The noise of it, the smell of it, the sheer improbable reality of it. And the people outside going about their lives, unaware or unwilling to believe, or simply too absorbed in the ordinary business of living to pay attention to one old man and his enormous wooden structure and the strange parade of creatures filing into it. Noah was 600 years and 7 days old when the door closed. The Bible says it quietly, "And the Lord shut him in." Not Noah, not Noah's sons, the Lord shut him in. As if the closing of that door was something that God himself needed to do, sealing in what would be preserved, sealing out what would not. The rain. On the 17th day of the 2nd month, it began. All the fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of the heavens were opened. 2 things at once, from below and from above. The deep cracking open, water surging upward from beneath the earth, and the sky releasing what it held. Rain falling in a way that rain had never fallen before. For 40 days and 40 nights the water came. Think about what 40 days and 40 nights of rain sounds like from inside a wooden vessel. The constant percussion of it against the roof, the way it would have built from the first hours into something overwhelming, something that pressed in on every side as the water rose around them. The sounds of the animals, the voices of his family, and outside, silence gradually, as the world that had been was covered. The waters increased and lifted the ark above the earth, and it rose, higher and higher as the flood covered the hills, then the mountains. Every high mountain under the whole heaven was covered. The waters prevailed above the mountains, covering them 15 cubits deep. Everything died. Birds and cattle and beasts and every swarming creature and every person, everything in whose nostrils was the breath of the Spirit of life, everything on dry land. The world that had been was gone beneath the water. Only Noah was left, and those who were with him in the ark. The waters prevailed on the earth for 150 days. The waiting. And then the Bible says something beautiful in its simplicity. But God remembered Noah. In the middle of all that water, in the silence of a world covered and still, God remembered Noah, and every living thing, and all the livestock that were with him in the ark. And God made a wind blow over the earth, and the waters subsided. The fountains of the deep were closed. The windows of the heavens were restrained. The rain was restrained, and the waters receded from the earth gradually, over a long stretch of days. On the 17th day of the 7th month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. The waters continued to abate until the 10th month. On the first day of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains were seen. And Noah waited. He was not hasty. He had waited inside that ark while the world was unmade around him. He could wait a little longer, to be sure. After 40 days, he opened the window of the ark and sent out a raven. It flew back and forth until the waters dried up from the earth. Then he sent out a dove. But the dove found no place to set her foot, and she returned to him, for the waters were still on the face of the whole earth. He put out his hand and took her, and brought her back into the ark. He waited 7 more days and sent the dove out again, and she came back in the evening. In her beak was a freshly plucked olive leaf. An olive leaf, green and living, pulled from a tree that was standing again above the waterline. A small thing, a single leaf, that carried in it the weight of an entire world beginning again. Noah knew then that the waters had subsided from the earth. He waited 7 more days and sent out the dove again. And this time, she did not return. Dry ground. On the first day of the 1st month of Noah's 601st year, the waters were dried from off the earth. Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked out. The face of the ground was dry. After all the rain, after all the water, after all the waiting, He looked out at a world washed clean. Ground that had been covered for the better part of a year, now dry again under an open sky. No more constant sound of water, just stillness and light, and the earth beginning again. God spoke to Noah. "Go out from the ark, you and your wife and your sons and your sons' wives with you. Bring out with you every living thing that is with you, birds and animals and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, that they may swarm on the earth and be fruitful and multiply on the earth." And Noah went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him, and every beast, every creeping thing, every bird, everything that moves on the earth by their kinds went out of the ark. Imagine that moment. After more than a year inside that vessel, stepping out onto solid, dry ground, feeling it beneath your feet, breathing open air that wasn't shared with hundreds of animals in an enclosed space, looking at a sky that wasn't pouring rain, looking at a world that was empty and silent and new. The first thing Noah did when he stepped onto dry ground was build an altar. He took some of every clean animal and some of every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. Not shelter, not food, not rest. The first act on dry ground was worship, and the Lord smelled the pleasing aroma. And the Bible records what God said, not to Noah, but as it were within himself, in words that carry the weight of everything that had just happened. "I will never again curse the ground because of man, for the intention of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I ever again strike down every living creature as I have done. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease." An acknowledgement of something that had not changed. The human heart was still what it was. The flood had not fixed that. And yet, the decision that followed was not another flood. It was a promise. Seed time and harvest, summer and winter, day and night. The rhythms of the earth would not be broken again. The covenant and the rainbow. Then God spoke to Noah and to his sons. "Behold, I establish my covenant with you and your offspring after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the livestock, and every beast of the earth. I establish my covenant with you, that never again shall all flesh be cut off by the waters of a flood, and never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth." A covenant, the same word from before, a binding, formal, unbreakable promise. But this time, it was not just with Noah, it was with every living creature, with the birds, with the animals, with the earth itself. A covenant so wide that nothing breathing was left outside it. And then God gave a sign. "I have set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. When I bring clouds over the earth, and the bow is seen in the clouds, I will remember my covenant." The rainbow. Every time clouds gathered and rain fell and the light broke through the water in the air and the colors appeared, God said, "I will see it. I will remember." The bow in the cloud was not primarily a sign for people to look at and feel reassured, though it was that too. God said, "When I see it, I will remember my covenant." The rainbow was a reminder to God, set in the sky, permanent, belonging to every generation that would ever come after. God looked at the world he had made and grieved, not from a distance, from the inside. And yet, when it was over, when the waters pulled back and Noah stepped onto dry ground, the first thing he did was not build shelter, not search for food. He built an altar. What does it mean that after everything, after the flood, after the silence, after a year inside that ark, his first instinct was worship? And that rainbow, still appearing in the sky thousands of years later, God said, "When I see it, I will remember, not you, me." A reminder he set for himself. Does it look the same to you now? Next episode, one language, one people, one impossible idea. The descendants of Noah look up at the sky and decide to build something that reaches it. A tower so tall it would touch the face of God himself. What happens when all of humanity is united and uses that unity to challenge heaven?